Hi there, I'm Andrew, you're watching That Gamer Ajax, and welcome back to the table. Now, today I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think is actually the perfect starting adventure if you are a new Dungeon Master, if you are a new player, and if you're just looking to get into Dungeons and Dragons as a whole. Now, a lot of us have probably already played this adventure, but it is a Lost Mine Phandelver that is included with the beginner's box for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, before you kind of turn away if you've already played through this adventure, just hear me out. So personally, I think that The Lost Mine of Phandelver is one of the better starting adventures when you are brand new to this game. I think that it has every element of a good story that you need in there, between an interesting start, with goblin ambush and somebody being held captive that you have to rescue. You get to feel like that hero, especially early on. There is a little bit of intrigue as to what is going on around the town of Phandalin. Why are these attacks happening? What is really going on? There's a lot for your group to explore. So let's go ahead and dive right in first with combat. I personally think that The Lost Mine of Phandelver has a lot of great combat opportunities that players can actually entirely bypass if they are smart, if they want to be. If not, they might be able to push themselves through a relatively challenging fight. I know that I've seen players do this. I've played through this adventure both as a dungeon master and as a player. I think probably 3 or 4 times now, trying to get new people involved in the game. And I have to say that seeing the ways that people kind of take on these different challenges is always interesting to me. You have a good variety of enemies that you're going to be fighting. I mean, you have, little goblins that might try attacking you. You have human bandits. You have ogres. You have orcs. You have all kinds of enemies that are from around the Forgotten Realms. There's even a chance that you could fight a dragon in this. And as somebody that has done this adventure before, it's actually a relatively difficult fight. This is something that you can really challenge your players with if you're a dungeon master, if you really want them to explore Thundertreat. Now, if you're a player, keep in mind that area can be relatively dangerous, so make sure that you are prepared if you're going to be checking it out. But overall, I think it's such a well-written little adventure, and there are so many places that you can go from it, and there are so many things that you can add to it. There are a lot of interesting non-playable characters that you can meet while you're playing through this adventure that if you're a creative dungeon master, you can have them give people quests and you can build relationships with them right out the gate because they are so likable, honestly. For me, I think that this is kind of a core D&D experience. If you haven't played The Lost Mine of Phandelver, you really, really should. There's a lot here for you, and because the adventure is supposed to take a relatively small group from levels 1 to level 5, it gives you that kind of immediate experience of learning how your character works, how you get into your archetype or your specialization. You start to become more powerful, and because of the way that Dungeons & Dragons is laid out, at least according to the Dungeon Master Guide, this would kind of put you up to that level of being a local hero. By the end of it, you probably have saved Phandalin. You have reclaimed the Wave Echo Cave. Like, you have passive income. You can actually start setting up establishments for you and your party in Phandalin, a place for you to start kind of growing your roots, really. And from there, you have so many options. This feeds so well into other written modules that Wizards of the Coast has put out, if that's what you're interested in. And if not, if you want to be that creative dungeon master and you want to start really homebrewing things from there, this would be a perfect place for you to pick up. It's something that I wanted to do with a group that I've played with before, and I just think that there's a lot that is there. Along with the interesting enemies that you can fight, what I think is actually a relatively well-told story that has a little bit of everything between intrigue, combat, stealth sections. There is some good loot that you can give out to your party. Now, something that I would personally recommend if you are a new dungeon master is keep in mind the kind of party that you have when you are going through this campaign. Some of the items might need to be kind of, reshaped a little bit. If you, for example, have somebody that, has no interest in using a mace, there's a magical mace that's going to be in here and that's not going to appeal to your players. Change its shape a little bit. Change it so that way it is something that the party might find a little bit more enticing while they are playing. If you're a brand new dungeon master, this is also a good way to really kind of get your feet wet because it teaches you the mechanics of being a dungeon master as the adventure plays out. I mean, at first, it's relatively straightforward. Go from point A to point B, have something happen in between. From there, you can really start branching out. I personally credit running through this adventure as being what kind of laid the foundation for me being a dungeon master and what I have found for what works for me and what doesn't. Personally, as one example, I'm not a big fan of doing the kind of a random encounter tables. They're in here, sure, and that can happen while your party is traveling. And there is a good amount of traveling that the party can do within, a few days of Phandalin. But it doesn't work for me. It might work for you. Your party might like that. Feel free to give things a shot. There is a lot of flexibility when it comes to this module as a whole. And I think that is kind of the key thing on why a lot of people say that this is one of the better adventures that Wizards of the Coast has put out for 5th edition. So in conclusion, I love The Lost Mine of Phandelver. There's a reason I have gone back to it a couple of times, and anytime that I have new players, this is usually going to be one of the first ways that I'm introducing them to the game. It's relatively simple to run. It's not going to take you overly long to get through, more or less depending on how fast your group likes to play. And it's a good way for both new dungeon masters and players to learn. Along with that, it's not overly expensive, and it's been expanded upon since. Personally, I haven't checked out the new chapter yet, and that's something that I still want to do. So, have you played through The Lost Mine of Phandelver? Where does it rank for you in terms of modules? If you don't think that this is a good one for starting out, what would you personally recommend? So, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a conversation going below. If you liked the video, please give it that thumbs up. And if you want to see some more of my content, why not consider subscribing? But, until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.